Hello, this is Sharon from SAS Statistical Programming. So far, we have learned how to use one-dimensional array. In this video, let's look at how to define and use two-dimensional array, which is a common type of multi-dimensional array. To define a multi-dimensional array, we need to specify the number of elements in each dimension, separated by a comma. In two-dimensional array, the two dimensions can be thought of as a table of rows and the columns. This is the general form. So for the dimension, we can see it's include row information and column information separated by comma. So the first dimension in the array statement specifies the number of rows, and the second dimension specifies the number of columns. Let's look at an example for a two-dimensional array. We can reference any element of the array by specifying the two dimensions. So in this array statement, new is the array name. It has row dimension as 3 and the column dimension as 4, which corresponds to 3 rows and 4 columns of the table. And x1 to x12 are the array elements. And row 2 and column 3 corresponds to the array element x7 in the table. So new 2, 3 reference x7, and code new 2, 3 equals 0, assign value of 0 for the variable x7. When we define a two-dimensional array, the array elements are grouped in the order in which they're listed in array statement. For example, the array element x1 through x4 can be thought of as the first row of the table, and element x5 through x8 become the second row of the table, and so on. Now let's look at the SAS program for this video. First, I use proc import procedure to bring in an Excel file called monthly, and the output SAS data set is I call it monthly as well. So let's run this data. And here is the monthly data. So this data contains a year variable. So we have a 3 years information. And we also have a 12 months variable, month 1 through month 12. So those months variable contains the monthly sale information. Let's go back to the code window. So the task is to generate a new data set of quarterly sales instead of monthly sales. So in this data step, the input SAS data set is monthly, and then the output SAS data set, I call it quarters. And here, this is a two-dimensional array. So this two-dimensional array M puts the variable month 1 through month 12 into 4 groups, or we can call it 4 rows of 3 months, or we can call it 3 months columns as I show here. So for the first row, we have months 1, 2, and 3. So this first row will be for quarter 1. And then for the second row, months 4, 5, 6 will be for quarter 2, and so on. So let's move to array statement. So in this program, I put a lot of comment here to explain this two-dimensional array more clear, because this two-dimensional array is a little bit complicated. So in this second array statement, this is one-dimension array. So this QTR4, this array, creates a numeric variable QTR 1, 2, 3, and 4, and those new variable will be used to sum the sales for each quarter. And each element in the QTR array represents the sum of one row in the M array. So that means QTR1 will represent the sum of months 1, 2, and 3, which is the first row of the M array. And QTR2 will represent the sum of the second row, which is months 4, 5, and 6, etc. All right. And then next, let's look at this first do loop. So this first do loop executes once for each of the 4 elements of the QTR array. So it's it will execute 4 iterations. And then following that, there is a assignment statement. Assign QTRI equals 0. So this assignment statement sets the value of QTRI to 0 after each iteration of this first do loop. So without this assignment statement, the value of QTR1, 2, 3, and 4 would accumulate across iterations of the data step due to later on this sum statement within the do loop. Alright, so let's move to next do loop, which is the second do loop. So this do loop executes the same number of times as the second dimension of the M array, which is 3. 3 here. This is the second dimension of M array. That is the number of columns in each row of the M array. Alright, so within this second do loop, this is the sum statement to sum monthly sales within a row to obtain the quarterly sales. Because we include 2 do loop, that's why we need to put 2 end statement here. Alright, so let's run this program. This is the new dataset quarters. There is 4 new variables generated, QTR1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's look at this 4 variable here. Those 4 variables should be the sum of monthly sale for each quarter. So let's go back to the code window. Lastly, I include a proc print procedure here. So the data I'm using is the output SAS dataset from this previous data step, which is quarters. But I only keep 5 variables in this output. One is year, and then quarter 1 to quarter 4. Because after this data step programming, we want to only keep the quarterly sales instead of keeping all the monthly sales. So let's run this print procedure. This is our output from the proc print procedure. For 3 years, those are the 4 quarterly sales for each year. Alright, this concludes this video. In this video, we talk about how to use 2-dimensional arrays. And this is it. Thank you for watching.